Welcome to the Getting Real with Hilary show, where ordinary heroes tell extraordinary stories during unique and never been heard before conversations with your host, Hilary Arno Burns. Hilary's unique listening and way of asking questions results in conversations that aren't usually talked about, so you can create the life that you really want but are afraid you can't really have. We are demonstrating the greatness in the human spirit and creating a world where we all reclaim our birthright of joy, happiness, purpose, and passion. Now, here's your host, Hilary Arno Burns. Welcome to the Getting Real with Hilary show. This is Hilary Burns, and today I have a very special guest. Her name is Renee Beth Poindexter. She is the founder of Living the Potential Network, a community that works together to create a better future by connecting individuals of all ages and backgrounds with the mentors, collaborators, resources, training, and opportunities they need to unfold their unique potential so they can be and create the change they want to see in the world. Renee Beth is an accomplished trainer, facilitator, success coach, and organizational consultant. She was also a teacher, and I could go on and on and on and on. She was a former high school English teacher. But for now, I want to bring her to the studio so she can tell you her story yourself. She has so much I could say, but let's have her speak instead. So welcome.
Great to see you, Hilary. It's great to be here with you. Of course. I love Getting Real with Hilary.
Yeah. So what's the part you like about Getting Real? I know we were just talking about it before, but why don't you tell the audience?
Yeah. I mean, it takes a long time to become yourself, when so many of our systems and unconscious processes are really about getting us to be something other than who we are. Because it's kind of based on fear of failure, It's like, and I know it's like being a parent is one of the toughest jobs there is. And the second one is being a teacher, And both of them have the greatest impact. I call them the gatekeepers on who we are, as little beings. I have two grand nieces. I never had my own children, but I have a 5-year-old niece, grandniece, and an 8-year-old. And it's so much fun to observe them and who they are becoming. And I just want to make sure that out of their creativity and their discovery, that they are just being playfully enthusiastic about life. Remember back when you were a really little being and everything was like, being in awe and being in the wonder of it all, until a certain age comes. And I remember, and maybe you have an early age too, where someone told you, I remember I was in kindergarten and I was doing my coloring and so forth. And I had, I was a Catholic kindergarten, and a nun came up and slapped my hand and said, no, it should be this color and this and that, and it's like, okay. So I started to match what other people thought I needed to be at a really early age. And I think it's probably happened for you and a lot of people. It's what I've noticed over the years of being a teacher and a facilitator in the development of learning communities. It's like people are hesitant to really be who they really are because they've been trying to be, what do I say? It seems like the most common thing I've seen as an executive coach and a life coach and a facilitator for people who are really up to something, deep down inside, they don't feel like they're enough. Like there's something off. Or the imposter syndrome, when you feel like you have a vision or a dream of something you want, but then there's a voice inside your head that goes, who do you think you are? Well, that voice comes from some other voice that happened in our growing up years by someone who probably had only good intentions for us, but they were operating from a fear of failure. And they don't want us to fail. So they wanted to guide us to a certain way of being or a certain way of doing. And along the way, we just forget, like, well, okay, who am I really?
Right. But, failure gets a bad rap because how can we get better if we don't fail?
Absolutely.
And
Well, I'm
it's taken
saying,
me a long time to get to that point, but like instead of failing, I became a failure. Like it's too, you know what I mean?
no. I mean, I think the idea of failure is the perception of people wanting to prepare us for our lives where we can be successful, and they have a definition of what success looks like. So they're coming from a place of, I don't want you to fail because this is what success looks like. These are the crayons that you should be using. This is the dance you should be doing. You know what I mean? Whatever it was that was taking us away from who we really are. And then it's their definition of failure that's imprinted on us. Right. So when you say, that you felt like failure is a not yet success, right? It's like, hey, it's an experiment. You think about Einstein and Thomas Edison. How many times did, I don't know, 1900 failures before he got the light bulb to work, right? It's kind of like, not yet, not yet, not yet. Because when you're in pursuit of something that you have a drive about, something you want to do, you want to learn, you're going to go for it. It's like, okay, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it.
Right.
Until it is it, right? But it takes however long it takes.
Yeah, there was that story, I think, in the Jack Canfield book where the kid spilled the milk and his mother let him play in the spilled milk. Mm-hmm. Like instead of yelling at him, and then, she taught him to clean it up, but he became like a Nobel Prize winner for science because he wasn't afraid to spill the milk.
Exactly.
Instead of getting yelled at for it.
Yeah, that's so perfect. That's so perfect. Yeah, there's lots of examples where I'm seeing now where become more aware. It's like when I'm with these young people, the 5 and 8-year-old, I'm watching who they are, what they're curious about, how they're learning. Because I'm trying to remember, how was I at that age? Because I don't think people around me were paying attention to, who I was becoming. They were pretty much about getting me to do what they thought I needed to do and to do it right. You know what I mean? So it's kind of just interesting to observe. That's why I think children have an interesting relationship with I love the intergenerational space, because we can actually be learning who we are becoming as human, even in different stages of growth. Because I'm sure you've known people that have arrested development. Yeah. Let's say arrested development emotionally, that we're never able to really develop who they really are emotionally. They're not able to give or receive love because of whatever challenge they had, whatever trauma they had growing up. So we have emotional intelligence, right? That's got to be important. But so much of our educational and just in general, there's a lot of fabulous teachers and fabulous schools and so forth. It's just the system itself hasn't always been rewarding us to become who we're designed to be, because it was built on efficiency. This is what you need to do as a 5th grader. This is what you need to do as a 9th grader. This is what, you know what I mean? So it's all on the success pathway that other people said it needed to be. And, at some point we wake up, like Hilary, you woke up and you go, well, who am I? How do I get real, and how do I help other people get real? That's why you and I are connecting. It's because, everybody, why wouldn't you be yourself? Everyone else is taken.
Yeah. I'm wondering where that efficiency pathway came from. Was it like the Henry Ford assembly line?
Yeah.
We have to get our kids in that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, where did it come from?
It started with the Prussian army. The whole idea of the Prussian army and how they got people, in a rhythm of doing certain things a certain way. Wow. Is the way it started. And then it was like, kids we used to learn in a certain way. You learn at home, you learn with your family, you learn to cook, you learn to sew, you learn to garden, you learn all those things. And then the system came along and said, let's just move like on a conveyor belt, the Henry Ford idea of the conveyor belt, and all without efficiency. It's not always very effective, but very efficient.
Yeah, I keep thinking about the crayon. Like, really, why did she care what color? She chose a cramped your creativity by telling you it had to be a certain way. But what was driving her?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. Well, it's because she's been programmed. I mean, when you think about the passed down generational understandings, it's just like sometimes, that story about the woman who's cooking a roast for her family, and she cuts off the front and the back, and the little kid says, "Why are you doing that?" Well, that's what my mom used to do. Well, her pan was smaller. You know what I mean? It's like asking
mother.
So right. So asking the question why, also leads to I don't know. And you know what? I don't know is a really powerful place to be. I don't know. As a matter of fact, what I've discovered in a lot of the communities I'm part of, when people go, I don't understand this, I go, that is such a super place to be. Let's find out. What should we do first? And it doesn't matter whether it's someone in their 50s trying to figure out what menopause is. I don't understand this.
Yeah.
My doctor just tells me I'm getting older, or and I said, well, let's find out. Let's find out who you are as the expert in your own body. Let's figure that out. What questions will we want to ask to find out? And who else cares about what you care about? And what if we could find the answer together, as opposed to, I've got to go to the expert who's not the expert. They're knowledgeable in a certain area, but we need to become our own best expert on who we are becoming as, I call it, spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yeah.
It's challenging because people go, what?
Now, when did you, I know you were a teacher, you were a lot of things. When did you start this search for more, or the soul stuff? You know what I mean? Like, we're going along, coloring with the wrong crayons, and then
oh yeah, I was like you, a very obedient. I was firstborn daughter, and I think it's then I didn't realize it till later, but I was a big disappointment because I wasn't the right gender. You know what I mean? They were expecting a boy, and anyway, unconsciously I tried to be the best boy my father never had through my choices and things.
Were you an only child?
No, I had a sister. They had another child, a sister, my sister, a mother, not a boy. So anyway, it was kind of my fault that I wasn't a boy to begin with. But anyway.
It was? Wait, tell me about that. How does that happen?
Well, it's an unconscious It's unconscious thing.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So I gravitated towards just trying to please my family, and my father specifically, As a matter of fact, after teaching high school for 6 years, and you asked me the question, when did I start to question what's going on? When I taught school, and I wrote a book about it, it's called Living the Potential, Engaging the Wisdom of Our Youth to Save the World. And it's really about what I learned to become a teacher, a high school English teacher. And the way I taught were two different things. I taught in an open school. They had collapsible walls. This is in Ohio, Sylvania, Ohio.
Wow.
And I had my students, like sophomores and juniors, in a circle, and we would design our learning for what we're going to do, because I knew they needed to be there and they needed the course to graduate. And I needed the job. You know what I mean?
Was it a special school?
No.
Or was it? No?
It was just an open, kind of a cutting edge open school. They had collapsible walls and stuff. But what was unique about it is the students could choose the teacher they wanted and the time in the class they wanted, because they had open registration. And so my classes filled up pretty fast, because I was like only 6 years older than my students, right? So they wanted to be with a younger teacher, a lot of them. And so anyway, the way in which I taught was, let's build the relationship. Who are you? Why are you here? Let's tell the story about that. And then when we start reading stories and books, authors and so forth, a lot of times the students will go, why do we have to read this Moby Dick? It's like, I don't get it. I go, well, let's look at Herman Melville and his life is all about. And what do you think he was going through? And let's talk about it. You know what I mean? Because rather than resisting it, it would be just talk about it, right? Yeah. So I kind of learned how to talk through things with young people, and we worked through a lot of things together. And I realized, it was kind of like I said, I didn't realize what a difference that could make for students. And of course, when I was a high school English teacher, I was a drill team coach, assistant. I did a lot of extracurricular stuff, a senior class advisor. I did a couple of plays. So my days would start like at 5 a.m. and go to 11 at night. And I worked really hard. I have a lot of respect for teachers who dedicate, because you're there to help the spark in the kids, right?
Yeah.
But what I saw is the way the system had set it up was that I had 6 classes, 4 different preps, and there was a group called the adjusted students. These were the kids that were not doing well. They called them adjusted. Most of them had some cognitive challenge. They didn't have words like ADHD and stuff like that back when I was a teacher. They did have dyslexia and stuff like that. But and then I taught what they called normal kids, and then I had the advanced kids. So I saw the full spectrum of how young people looked at learning. And each class, I wanted to meet them where they are, but I just started to realize, how does learning happen? It's not about stuffing people with knowledge and then testing them to get a grade. I thought it's really about who they are becoming with the information they're bringing in. And we would have those conversations. So through that process, I started to question the system. And I thought, there's got to be a better way. I wonder what it is. And lucky for me, I was recruited to go into business. It was back during affirmative action. And I took a job with Owens Corning Fiberglass. And I was the first woman sales rep to be hired by them in the building supplies division in Texas. Well, so I went from teaching high school English, right, to selling building products. But that opened a whole pathway for me in terms of business development and connection in business. So that took me to many different business development. I ended up working in financial services and healthcare and, with technology companies. And bottom line, the common denominator, what made me successful is I cared about people, the issues that they were dealing with, and how to solve them together. That built a bond of trust. So long answer to your question, when did I first start questioning? It was just through my experiments of what makes humans choose to do what they do and what helps them be successful and what does education have to do with it?
Yeah.
So I've just been asking those questions all along.
So when you were teaching and when you went to the next things and you were curious about these kind of questions.
Yeah.
Were you always I always liked, I don't know, sociology. It was just natural for me to watch groups and, you know what I mean? Was it like that for you? So maybe you were in sales or business development, but you were still studying, what makes people learn. And do you know what I mean? So this was kind of you were always gathering the information and seeing it wherever you were, right?
Right. So curiosity, I think a curiosity is what really drove me. And it took me to certain things like neurolinguistics and hypnotherapy. And, it was before emotional learning came forward, but I was always questioning. I think I was always interested in psychology and, what makes people tick. And that's when I got involved with, personal growth and development programs like Landmark, back in the 80s was when I first discovered Landmark, and then LifeSpring and because that was groups of people that were actually learning how to do their inner work. Hey, I did everything the right way and it still didn't work out. So who am I now? Those kinds of questions. And along the way, I met a gentleman. This is I left teaching in the late 70s. I know that gives you an idea how old I am. And I was in business and different companies and so forth. And I was in the healthcare field in Southern California. Basically, I was representing cardiology, ventilators, and oxygen systems in all the hospitals in Southern California, Nevada, and Hawaii. And then I went into home health care which provided services once patients leave the hospital. I was in charge of the business development team for a major company. And I started to see the brokenness in the healthcare system. I started to see it was similar to what was broken in the education system from my perspective. It was like, they don't know who the customer is, right? And these discharge planners were releasing people from the hospital. They'd choose my company or someone else, but they didn't really use the service. They didn't pay for the service. You know, the healthcare system was not really relational. It was more transactional. And it felt that same way in education, like, you know, people on a conveyor belt, spoon feeding over a long period of time that keeps people separate from who they really are becoming. So that's when I started studying Peter Senge and the fifth discipline and really becoming aware of being a systems thinker. I studied neurolinguistics, and I met a gentleman actually who had a unique learning community in Canada. His name was Brent Cameron, and he created a program called Wonder Tree. And when I heard about it, I said, I got to check this out. Now, I'd been out of education for 10, 12 years. I'm living in California, and his program's in Vancouver, British Columbia. So I called him up and I said, I really want to know what you're doing. Because by this time I'm thinking people would do better if they know better, but the systems are off and I can't quite figure it out. Maybe it's something about how education could be if people could really become who they're designed to be early on. And I heard about Wonder Tree. And I met these kids and they were amazing. And they were like 7 and 8 years old. And Brent said, I'd love for you to move here and, you know, help me build more Wonder Trees. I said, well, I'm not ready to do that yet, but let's find a way to play. Well, the kids were, what I loved about his model is, just to give you an example. He started the program for his daughter, and they met in the basement of a church. And they designed their learning by project management style process. Like they kind of map out what they were curious about, and then they create a project, what they were going to do. So they became project managers, and they learned to manage the budget. They hired their mentors. They were pretty much in control. They were in the driver's seat of their learning experience. And I'm going, this is fascinating. And they got caught up in the Macintosh computers when they came out, and HyperCard was the early program. And they were programming their learning. They were creating their own units of study using technology. It was cool. And they got written up in the newspaper.
What year was this?
This is probably 92, 93. Okay. And so big utility company, BC Hydro, saw this, what these kids were doing. And they were going, we want to design a game that teaches energy conservation. It was called Power Smart. And they were about ready to hire some consultants to pay them, $200,000 plus to design this game that was ultimately going to be for 7th and 8th graders. And because the goal was to teach the kids how to become energy managers to conserve energy in the home. But they said, before we hire those consultants, let's go talk to those kids, because the game is for kids. So they went, and these guys were so impressed. You can imagine these guys with their briefcases walking into the basement of a church. Yeah. And these kids laying out these Gantt charts to map out the project. The guys were so impressed, they wrote them a check for $75,000. And these kids are 9 and 10 years old. And I got to be a part of that project. And I started to see the cross-pollination between education, technology, business, projects, people of different ages working together to solve a problem. So that's where that started. It really started me thinking that way. And as a result, that's what my book's about, is about those kids, about the program, about my experience, and then fast forward to who they are today, because they're all entrepreneurs. They've all designed their life. They all love their life. And so my vision has always been, why don't we have more learning communities? Why don't we cross-pollinate business and education and technology? And we don't have to be in a separate domain. We can cross-pollinate. Right. That's what nature does. It cross-pollinates. So that's how it started, and my awareness. And ever since then, I've been very interested in learning about, right now, my passion is holistic health and this whole concept of reversing aging. And I'm also very interested in artificial intelligence, which I call authentic intelligence. like how technology can be a vehicle for our awakening of who we really are beyond just utilitarian convenience, like this, our authentic intelligence can reveal ourselves to ourselves in some pretty powerful ways. So I think it's going to help shift some systems.
Mm-hmm.
And I love with the innovators who are in those conversations.
Wow. Woo, that's a lot of stuff there. So, okay. So
I know.
let's go back. So you worked with the kids, you saw, wow, okay, we got business people, we got kids, look what they accomplished. They gave them money, like they created this game. And then where did you go from there to end up with the holistic health? Was there other steps in between?
Oh yeah.
I like chronology, so I'm like, where'd you get there?
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is that
I don't know if you want to tell people how old you are, because I think they will all be impressed with how you look. You look like you're in your 40s, right? So,
I'm in my 7th decade. So, yeah. Well, I feel like this is a great adventure. Life is a great adventure. And what am I learning? What else do I want to know? How am I going to, and just being with those Wonder Tree kids and finding that we could solve problems in ways that just by asking good questions and using technology to support that has been really interesting. But along the way, Hilary, I burnt myself out. For anybody that's listening to this, if you're a driven person and I've been always driven to just learn and go and traveling California, all those freeways and all that. I got sick and it was chronic fatigue and Epstein-Barr, and literally a friend of mine did an intervention on me. She said, "You are just driving yourself into the ground." Like I'd work, Monday through Saturday, and then I'd sleep Sunday and get up and it was just constantly like running on fumes. And she did like this intervention and took me to a homeopathic doctor who did some blood tests. And she said, "You need rest." My adrenals were off the chart. I was depressed. I was not taking very good care of this vehicle that we live in. It's a vessel.
Yeah. What job were you in then? Was it after Wonder Tree or before?
I wasn't working. Wonder Tree was a project, but I was living in California, partnering with them, and I created a company. I created my own company to help market that game to other utilities. At the same time, I was working in the healthcare space and managing a team of 15 people and helping impact operations in the midst of Southern California, driving those freeways. And I became a basket case.
And the game. So you're doing the game, 2 utilities, and you have your full-time job managing 15 people. Okay.
So burnout,
wow.
Right? So that's when I tell people I fell asleep to wake up. I was on this disability for 6 months. And out of that, I started to really kind of put it together, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? And there's got to be a better way. What is it?
For 6 months, you didn't what?
And from that, I came to the awareness that I didn't want to be living in Southern California anymore. And I thought I'd sell my house and get back into education in some way, as I was doing my healing. And part of the healing was working with plants if I wasn't sleeping, I was working with plants and a container garden on my patio and stuff. And I started to get reconnected to nature. And then I started to look at nature is our healer. And what does nature help teach us? And what am I eating? What am I drinking? How am I part of nature? So through this process of introspection, instead of treating myself like a machine, I started to see myself as kind of an organic, unfolding, flower that needed to be repotted in new soil and grow into who I was meant to be, as opposed to driving myself in the ground like some machine, right? So through prayer and spiritual understanding and healing, I got on a really cool natural health regimen and started to drink healthy water and eat good food. And from that, I started to see the holistic approach of recovery, regenerating myself. and then how that related to what am I doing with my time, and who else needs to care about this. So the idea of holistic healing, whole being healing, and holistic learning, they came together in a way. Whereas in 1997, I created my company, Living the Potential Network. And the goal was to create intergenerational learning spaces, intergenerational learning communities where we can actually get real and work on the projects that we care most about. And it just led me to the next step and the next step from that place moving forward.
And did you ever go back to those jobs?
No.
No? Wow.
No. So I've been in my own business since 1990. I think the last official job I had was, I was a project manager for a technology company. So that tied me over, but it was also part of the question is like, who am I becoming? What is it that I need to learn that I don't know that's related to this vision of creating these learning communities?
All right.
And the question, what does technology have to do with it?
All right. On that note, let's take our little break and then we'll come back. I'm writing it down. What does technology have to do with it? And then we'll start there. All right. We'll be right back. Thank you. With a word from our sponsor. Okay. Parents and teachers, imagine a classroom where every child belongs, where kids are seen, known, and part of a real community. That's the world Kokori creates. Kokori isn't just another program. It's hands-on, playful, and filled with activities kids love, all while building skills that matter for life: confidence, kindness, resilience, and teamwork. Kids learn how to regulate themselves, connect with others, and discover the joy of learning that lasts a lifetime. And it works. Schools using Kokori have seen behavioral referrals drop by 25%, and teachers save hours of planning time. Whether you're a teacher building a safe, positive classroom or a parent wanting your child to grow socially and emotionally, Kokori makes it easy to bring these life skills into everyday learning. So if you're ready to help kids grow stronger, kinder, and more confident while creating a community where every child belongs, visit kokoriapp.com. That's KIKORI, where kids thrive together. This is Earth, a planet of extraordinary beauty, filled with life, potential, and possibility. We, the people of this world, are united in our shared humanity. We stand together to embrace the present, heal the past, and create a future where all can thrive. On October 18th, we come together to celebrate what it means to be human, to raise the consciousness of our collective spirit and amplify the best of who we are. From the earth we walk on, to the health of our bodies, to the flourishing of our minds, Humanity Day is about more than just one moment. It's a new beginning. This is our call to action, to invent a new future where we nurture the earth, each other, and the next generations to come. Join us. One day, one world, one humanity. Visit IamHumanity.net and be part of something greater. Together, we'll create a world where humanity thrives. Hey, it's Hilary from the Getting Real with Hilary show. Life can be messy, raw, and real. And sometimes we're afraid to feel vulnerable. We're afraid to be that real self. Well, that's exactly what the Getting Real with Hilary show and Getting Real movement is all about, being our true selves. Every week, I bring you stories of transformation, authenticity, and hope. People getting real with their struggles, their faith, and their breakthroughs. So don't miss a thing. Subscribe to my weekly newsletter today. You'll get stories, links to everything new, and how to create a life you love every week directly to your inbox. You can also find my books on Amazon. My courageous and riveting memoir, The Second Piece of French Toast, in case you feel stuck in your life and want to get inspired. How I came out about my no sex life in my marriage in my second book, Real Talk. That one will get you speaking up in ways you've been too afraid to do so, and really creating amazing freedom. And my third book, How to Stop Fixing Yourself and Start Having Fun, the name is called Your Bullshit is Your Blessing. Find links to everything and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Getting Real with Hilary, and you'll find the links in the header. So visit, and you can also visit gettingrealwithhilary.com, because the real you is worth it and wants to come out. So thank you, as always, to our sponsor, kikoriapp.com. If you want to bring, just like Renee Beth is talking about, social emotional learning to your schools, it really gets the kids connected and helps them learn better. It gets them connected to their hearts so they can learn, connect, and grow. Thank you for making this show possible. And also to our other sponsors, you'll see their banners going across the bottom. Thank you also for making it possible to elevate the conversation and consciousness of this planet by putting good conversations out into the network of conversations. And now we will bring back Renee Beth for more of her fascinating story. All right. So let's see. Okay. So you took the 6 months to heal. You were still in California. You left California. You went up to Portland. The charter school wasn't yet, so you got a job with educational technology, but you're still asking, who am I becoming and what does technology have to do with it? Is that right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's also the connection. It's like if I were to draw a Venn diagram, it would be nature, this idea of the fascination with nature and how the pace of nature, like when I moved to Oregon, I came at springtime, and
How did you pick it? How did you pick Portland?
I picked it because it was close to Vancouver, Canada, and I wasn't ready to move to Canada.
Okay.
And I had done some work at Portland State University, and we brought in John Taylor Gatto, who wrote the book Dumbing Us Down. He was a fabulous teacher from New York who's no longer on the planet right now, but we just started having conversations with the Portland State University students and other people, and it just seemed like I remember sitting down by the river and realizing that the Willamette River runs right through Oregon and Portland, and there's like 12 bridges over the river. And I remember thinking, I'm a bridge. I'm bridging education and business. I'm bridging technology with spirituality. I'm bridging domains that this is a city of bridges. Maybe I should move here. I mean, really, that was the thought.
Wow.
And it's not that far from, it's like a 7-hour drive to get to Vancouver, up through Washington and through the border. And I could still get to Canada because Brent and I were still working closely together. As a matter of fact, I helped set up a nonprofit organization. It was for a holistic master's degree program, and it was called the Self-Design Graduate Institute.
Wow.
And I worked with him on that. And then we've got it accredited through, it's a long story on how that happened, through Antioch University, and it became the Transformative Learning Foundation. So I did that for 12 years while I was trying to also look at what does health and well-being have to do with technology, and how does it relate to nature? So those have been my questions. And as a result, I've been able to shift my own health to, there's no sign of chronic fatigue ever in my body. And normally the experts say that when you have an overactive white blood cell count, sometimes it stays with you. It never really leaves, but there's no sign of it. And I'm in my 7th decade. My last birthday I was 75, and I'm on no medications. And I've actually just really learned how natural health remedies, working with, holistic health professionals like chiropractors, naturopaths, acupuncturists, so forth, learning about energy, learning about food, learning about my relationship to nature, that I could shift my relationship to energy. That's led me to even a more cutting edge technology company that's focusing on stem cell activation naturally through light. Now, it's kind of like interesting because I'm combining my interest in helping people, educate and empower people to become their own best experts, right? At the same time as if you didn't have to sell your soul for money and you could actually be a part of a system that educates and empowers people how to take back their health and support other people learning how to do that, I could be part of the solution on both holistic healing and holistic learning. So that's what I've been doing, is combining that at the same time of building this living the potential network of people of different ages who are finding their soulful contribution and how they can be a contributor to others who care about what they care about, and making it happen in an intergenerational learning space. So it's just been a journey. I know it seems weird, like, that's why I'm not afraid to have conversation with people who are trying to reinvent themselves, because the world's kind of a crazy place right now. You might have been laid off from a job, or you might be thinking, I would love to have a home-based business, but I don't know where to start. Or, if you want to write a book, or if you're looking for people who are looking for you, that's the whole point of the network, is we have the resources. It's just a matter of what are you looking for and how can we serve you? That's kind of our approach.
Wow. Well, just listening to your story, and I know we're not done yet, but just it was like you just kept following the thread.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you weren't afraid. You were a teacher, then you went over here, then you went to California, then you found Brent.
Yeah.
You just like called him up. Hey, I want to work with you. Like, you weren't afraid. I think a lot of people, like we were talking about when we started, fear, like, what if
Right.
who am I?
Exactly.
Well, yeah, like, you didn't have that. You just called him up and said, hey, I want to work with you. Like, I just find that so inspiring and so courageous. And maybe it was just a day, just a regular day. But I think that's really,
well, it was kind of just like, yeah. Well, one of my questions I love to ask people is, what would you be doing if you knew you could not fail? You know what I mean?
right.
Because there is no failure. What's the dream on your heart? These are questions that coaches ask, normally. But what I found is that it takes some time to really, I call it unfold. It's like what nature, it's like you look at an acorn, you go, there's no evidence. Actually, I have an acorn right here on my, I should get it for you real quick here. It's like, when you look at this little acorn, there's no evidence that this is an oak tree. This has the potential to become an oak tree. There's magic in this acorn.
Yes.
So there's magic in all of us. And when we have a fertile environment and we're allowed to be nourished and be okay with not having all the answers in advance, just be on the inquiry of, I'm curious about this. I wonder what this is. Allow yourself to be on that adventure of discovery without having to have it all figured out in advance. And that's what I think is happening, Hilary, since the pandemic. A lot of people are realizing there's other ways to discover, what might be possible. You know what I mean? And it's not a straight line always, it's kind of, like you said, I've been threading the needle, creating some sort of a mandala.
Yeah.
But the quality of my journey has allowed me to, no matter what conversation I'm having with people, I can meet them where they are, discover what they're curious about, and support them in unfolding their own greatness, whatever that might be, their talent, their gift. A lot of people in my group, I'll tell you, there's a quote for my book. I read this quote that said, it's from the Shoemaker Briefings from the Global Ecology College in England. And a sustainable education, it was a little thing, and it says, art leads science by 10 years. Science leads business by 10 years. and business leads education by 10 years. So in a linear world, the artists are the musicians, the dancers, the writers, are 30 years ahead of education, right? So I kept saying, well, where are the artists and why aren't they leading? Because what do the artists have to show us is that they're creating something from nothing. They're inspired. Where's the inspiration coming from? You have to have some belief of something larger than you, right? The inspiration is coming through, and then you have courage to create from that space without having it all figured out in advance. That's kind of an ulterior pathway than the way we've been conditioned to always know some linear way of understanding who we are. And it's not linear. It's not linear. And that's what nature has to teach us, is a big part of it. So anyway, that's kind of a big thing that's kind of led me to learning from the artists meet the scientists. It's like Da Vinci was amazing. He was art and science, right? So when you start blending the domains, and I think that's what authentic intelligence, some people call it artificial intelligence, I'm thinking authentic intelligence is coming together to help us break down these barriers of separation, like where we feel like we're separate. And and we're probably more, how is authentic intelligence or artificial intelligence is because, you can ask a question. If anyone here is using ChatGPT or OpenAI, you ask a question, boom, there's the answer, right? So we become the quality of our questions. And as you start asking questions like, here's the situation I'm dealing with. I got this and I got this and I got this. How are these connected? Boom, there's an answer. So the idea is allowing to work with an intelligence that rewards us from looking outside of the box in such a way that we start cross-pollinating, like spirituality meets science. Okay. Most people wouldn't think, well, technology is there a consciousness in technology? And this is pretty interesting because back when I was a teacher, I taught the book 2001 Space Odyssey. I taught that back in 1979. The book was 2001 Space Odyssey. It was like 2001 seemed like way far into the future, right?
It was, yeah.
And, that story about Hal and whether he was an emotional, and Stanley Kubrick and the producer of the movie and Arthur Clarke, the author of the book, they argued about how they were going to end that movie. So here we are today. It's not 1979. It's not 2001. It's 2025.
Right.
And where technology is and what most people think it is, it's like, it's completely, it's almost like I feel that technology will meet us where we are.
Yeah.
So it's based on the quality of questions that you're asking. So what do you want to know? And who else cares about what you care about? And let's have conversations about it. Does that sound weird?
Not at all. I mean, I've gone to ChatGPT when I've been upset, and I'm like, why am I feeling that? Why? This is what happened. And it's like, well, you're very sensitive. Like, it knows me, and it gave me such good information, and I could be like, thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I was upset, because, it made sense, and this is what I could do about it. And I was like, wow. I mean, it's not just it's almost a personality, which is a little scary, but okay. So we have like, let's see, 6 minutes. I want you to be able to talk about your course if that's what you want. Like, where do you want to lead people? I know you're doing so much and you want to invite people in to partner with you.
Sure.
Because it's creating, where do you want to be and who else cares, right? So how do you want to let people know about that?
Oh, thank you, Hilary. It's a pleasure. I feel that Living the Potential, you can go to livingthepotential.com. It's my website.
Okay.
And understand a little bit about what a learning community is and what we're doing. It's mostly online. We've done some in-person events, and we will continue to do that. And I have 12 facilitators. These are people who are engaging and helping people kind of design what they love also to have a life they love. And since we're in so much change, we call ourselves a change maker. So whatever, if you're listening to this and you want to know, well, where do I start? We have a course called Trusting the Seeds, because I think everything begins with trust. We have to trust ourselves. And we're in the midst of so much change right now. It's like, well, how do I trust myself? Right? Mm-hmm. Well, we have a course and conversations about that. And you can see more about it at livingthepotential.com. And also my book is going to Living the Potential, Engaging the Wisdom of Our Youth to Save the World, is turning into an ebook. And I'm going to be releasing that in October. And so when you read that, or you like what you're reading, we're creating groups of people who want to talk about what's showing up for them. Because the idea is if you can live the potential for yourself, what is that? And who's looking for you? So that's part of the catalyst for the design of the network. And also, I just want you to know that I've had several youth advisors that I've worked with, because I keep learning from young people and the world that they are inheriting from us, right? And what are their ideas and what are they most interested in? So we have some openings for youth advisors. So if you know anyone between the ages of, let's say, 16 and 22 that have a leadership gene and they're going, I need to be heard. Who cares what I care about? I'd love to interview them, because they're going to help guide these intergenerational learning communities. And then one more thing, it's like, I think parenting is really important, one of the most important jobs there is. And you're, as a voice, as parents, you might need support. So we have facilitators in our network that go, how can we support you in the midst of all the shifts and changes? And then, we have some assessments that if you're looking for some sort of next step, we have a program that will support you in discovering what's in you that hasn't yet fully been developed, but you think you could if you would, and maybe. So those are the conversations we like to have. So don't hesitate to reach out. And along the way, here's the thing. Be sure you connect with nature in some way. We're in the midst of the fall season right now. And it's time, the days are getting a little darker here in North America. So it's okay to slow down a little bit, take your time, do your prayers, your meditations, reach out to a friend, take a walk. I've made a habit of hugging trees just because I want them to know I so support their strength and their endurance. And if they could speak, what would they be saying to me right now? I mean, those are the kinds of questions I ask, and I get answers. So connect. Wow. Yeah, connect to nature, and allow yourself to become. You're not a human doing, you're a human being. So who's that being in you that needs support? And one of my famous lines that I borrowed from Margaret Wheatley, who wrote the book, I'm trying to think of the name of her book. Margaret Wheatley, she says that no matter what the problem is, community is the answer. So reach out. Let's find ways in which we can support each other. And Living the Potential is a network that's building community. We'd love to have you join us. And Hilary, I love getting real with you, my dear. Thank you for all the work that you've been doing on the planet. Because, showing up is 99%, isn't it?
It is. It is. Yes. Thank you. Now, one last question. Like, let's say somebody, they're a parent, they want support, or they're one of these youth advisors. How would they go about? They just go to your website and trying to talk to you. There's a place.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And if you're curious, we've got a special with this course starting in October on trusting the seeds, that we cut the price in half, and then we cut it in half again. And we say, why don't you come and bring a friend? And so it's an online learning process, but you can learn at your own pace. And then we have conversations about it. So you'll make new friends. We have people from all over North America and even other parts of the world that are connecting in. And we're finding that when there's a lot of chaos going on, the thing is people need people.
Mm.
We need each other. So this is a safe place where you can tune in and show up, and you might think of someone else that needs to know about this, and let's continue to expand the community and see what difference we can make.
Great. Awesome. All right. So livingthepotential.com. Please reach out to Renee Beth. We need more communities, youth advisors, parents, everybody. Come on, let's go.
Right. It's just a pleasure to be with you, Hilary.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the work that you bring to the world, and for your authenticity and transparency, and for letting people know that getting real is worth it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you for your work.
Thank you,
For
my
the
dear.
planet. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you for watching this episode. I started getting real with Hilary when I discovered that I was a people-pleasing, pleasant phony and wanted to be more of my real self. We can grow together if you will like the show, subscribe to my channel, and share this episode with your friends and family so that we can have a world that's more real.